Hi, Peter.
Hello, hello.
Hey. Good morning or good day.
Yeah, good day. Where are you calling in from, Ronnie?
I'm from North Carolina.
North Carolina, nice.
How
Cool.
about
Well,
you?
welcome. I live in Denver, but I'm in New York right now.
Oh, New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too. So, what can I help with?
This first time I joined the office hour, so I thought of probably there's some other audience listening, and also I have a question. So this
Today
kind of
just
one-on-one office hour.
not one-on-one, but right now you're the only person here, so
Oh,
there's no one else.
gotcha.
Yeah. So you feel free to ask your questions. Three people signed up, but you're the only one to pop in so far.
Okay. Let me do one thing. I will pull up the question from the community discussion. Just give me 1 second. I think I can share my screen. I don't have anything confidential there. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Let me share my screen. So you see that I'm sharing the community, open community discussion. Okay.
Yep.
Post a question there. Actually got some good answer, but I think we can recap. And I also want to clarify in terms of the authorization using OPA. But anyway, so my initial question is regarding the custom built-in function, right? I read the document and it says that, oh, there's some, look like that there's some constraint. I see that this, see, yeah, like this one. In the extending OPA, the document says that the custom built-in function must not be used. I can go to the document directly to walk through. So basically from here, I understand that you can use the custom built-in function, right? And so far only available through the Golang, right? But in the future, maybe some other method. But anyway, just yeah, here we go. This saying that if you're doing something that affecting the changes in external system, don't use it. But it seems that it is clarified. If let's say I just intend to retrieve some attributes in order to for the rules, you know, to do the authorization checking, this approach should be a good fit, right? Is that your understanding?
Yes, and so like this warning label here is that we've done extensive testing on the internals of OPA to make sure that like you don't expose any information you wouldn't want to, or you know, like leak credentials. Like we've done a lot of testing around it. And so when you're writing a custom function, if anything in that function changes the normal OPA behavior, right, we can't ensure those same safety protocols. But if you're doing something simple, like you're fetching attributes, or you're just like reaching for information, or just like if you're doing something simple, then there's no risk of that as well. But there's just a warning message here to say like there's a lot of power in these custom built-ins, and so you can extend OPA quite a bit. And so when you do that, you just want to take precautions. But for what it sounds like you want to do is very simple, so I don't think you'll have any problems.
Okay, excellent. So is this this message is only for the function which I run as a library, or also the same case for the runtime? Because from reading this document, and also I personally tried the the last example. So this kind of when I start my OPA server, right, actually register this function, my function. The other one I haven't tried yet, but from high level, this kind of I don't run the OPA server as a separate instance. Somehow there's a library which can put into my code base. That's my understanding, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that this particular message is only applicable to the library option or also for the runtime option? Because this term to me is, I don't know, this custom built-in function, meaning it's library only, or even for runtime, we also name it a custom built-in function. Yeah, so
I would imagine it's both. I think the position of the warning message does make it look like it's only for the top half, but I would like the functionality, right, is the same no matter how whether you're running it at runtime or you're like compiling. Like, so either way, you can use this to mess with open internals. So I think that warning message applies to both. But yeah, why don't you give me a little more details about the exact functionality you want from this custom built-in function, and then I can let you know if there's any like things to watch out for.
Sure. So let me go back to the community discussion. So I'm interested in extending OPA because I'm looking at the other open source project. Let me show you this. So this Topaz, this open source, what they're doing. Actually, I can go to their site because in here, I'm not quite sure they have any diagram to show you. Bear with me, let me go to their doc. I will show you their architecture. Then you have a better idea. One sec.
Cool. Take your time.
Yeah. Okay, architecture. Here we go. So what this open source project, they're trying to deal with the authorization, no matter is the RBAC, ABAC, or relation-based access control. The approach is that they combine the OPA and the directory. So that in the directory, they may have the graph database, have the relation-based access control, all those attributes, and then they expose this the directory data through the built-in. So that's why I noticed that, oh, there's a built-in functionality. So basically, if you look at the whatever the other approaches projects, they have probably a, like in here. Let me show you another document, which is the OPA expert data. Yeah, here we go. So in the OPA official document, it outlines some options because just the OPA legal rules itself, you won't be able to do the authorization decision. You have to have the data, right? So this here outlines some of the options, like you do the input override, right? You probably use even some JAL, something like that. And the other, some, approaches, bundle, whatever. And there's, if you look at the last one, saying that during the policy evaluation, you can do a API call, HTTP call to, grab something back, right? So, but I think this open source project just gave me another approach. Instead of, either outside of the OPA, you first grab the attributes, or within the OPA, you use the out of box HTTP call, right? You have another option, which you develop your own function, and in there you can whatever expose all your the context data attributes. Initially, why I look at it here, because in the the document here says that for the HTTP call, there's some, I think it's saying that there's no retry, something like that. Yeah, see here, there's no retry logic. So I just suspect why is that, but through the community discussion, it says that OPA just don't want to retry to add more latency. It leaves to the caller or the client. You can retry if you want. That's flexible. That's good. So for me, I'm just either look at this option or like this open source project to look at put my function right as extension, and then I will have both the rules and the data in one single view, right? So that's the goal.
Gotcha. And so this is like you're specifically trying to solve for latency here. Is that the reason you're trying to smash together the data with the policy instead of doing some sort of call? Is it like, are you trying to solve for latency?
I think it's not for latency, because no matter where you call it, outside of the OPA, right? You have a separate component. You call grab attribute 1, 2, whatever, and then you feed in as input to the OPA, or inside that you call probably will be similar, but I think that the overall goal is that I will have a single view, right? If it's a separate component, right? I call probably my PIP1 or call another thing. That's not something that within the policy rule, it was separate component. So in terms of the audit or whatever the governance, probably you have to think through that, combine all this. But if all within the policy rule itself, I know, I call that API, I call that function, I know that function, the interface, what attribute it retrieve. So it's kind of a single view for better visibility. But I haven't think through the caching yet. But if in next phase, if I think about it, the caching maybe can assess the one approach better than the other. I don't know that yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options here of like how you could construct this, and so yeah, like I think that the custom built-in is definitely one way to do it. You add a lot, you add more things for you to maintain if you build a custom built-in, obviously, because you're maintaining that code now as well. Right, so it's kind of the nice thing about HTTP send is that it's already built in, and so you'll know that if anything changes or something, like those updates are on us. But you do have to introduce retry logic if you need that, and so with the HTTP send built-in function, what we always warn people about is constructing for latency. Because right, if OPA and the data source are very far away, then right, you're adding round trip latency, and if you have a retry logic, then you have more latency. And so we've seen people get into trouble there where they're just like, they have a bunch of logic around network calls, and then all of a sudden their access attempts take a long time. It takes a minute to get a response, and then it's just a very bad user experience. And so we just tell people to be cognizant of how they use that HTTP call.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, both are valid options.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
How you would like to manage the code going forward is kind of the bigger question.
Sorry, what's the question?
I said so you can choose either option; they're valid, but you have to decide how you want to manage the code going forward. Which one would be easier for you?
Yeah, got you. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So, the second question for you. I mean, I'm not quite sure if you're aware of the enterprise customer adoption, but anyway, I was just trying to understand. Do you see a lot of the adoption at an enterprise level in the fine-grained authorization? They use OPA.
Yes, we do. So if you look at like our adopters file, we have quite a few people there. that have
yeah, I can stop share if you want. Okay, where is the stop share? Here we go.
Yeah, and so we have an adopters file that shows quite a few people that have been using OPA, like for open source. I mean, there's also quite a few like enterprise products built on top of OPA, and they all have enterprise customers as well. And so there is a pretty big ecosystem of enterprise companies that are using Open Policy Engine in one form or another. So yeah, I don't know if you had like a specific question or around that, but I'm happy to dive deeper into it.
Just in general, I mean, if it's in greenfield, it's easy, right? Just get started. But chances are, each it's not something from scratch. Chances are you already have some application, you have some authorization already, right? So this is a change. I'm just trying to understand. Do you see that the engineers like the change, or any anything we can make the change smooth, or for more people to like the change, something like that?
Yeah, what we typically see is a ramp up period where it's difficult to re-architect, right? Because you're adding new complexities in. But after you've done the initial step of decoupling the authorization decision from your other tools, right? After you go through that initial change, then everything becomes much easier, right? And so while you do have the challenge of changing the architecture at the beginning, after that point, that's when developers and engineers start to really like the tool, because you've now simplified having one place to do policy decision versus having to hard code it into whatever tools you're using. And so, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Looks like we have a new person. How's it going?
Hi.
Not pronounce your name.
Yeah. Sorry about joining a little bit
oh, you're fine.
late. Yeah. So I had a few questions. So basically what I'm trying to do this week is basically I have a hackathon project within the company, and I'm trying to use OPA to basically implement a policy engine kind of within the company. And I was struggling with a few things. One of which is basically, so there are two parts to the question that I want to ask. One is so OPA is I was reading about it, and it is not OPA should not be considered the source of truth for the policy or the data, right? So I will need some other service, some other service or something else managing the policies and the data and making sure that it is delivered to the right OPA, right?
Correct. Yeah. So you'll want to have something that is creating those bundles, right? The bundle, the policy and the data, and then you'll want to serve that somewhere. Like maybe you upload it to an S3 bucket or something. But you'll have to have another service that does the kind of creation of those bundles, because it's up to the engineer to decide how often those bundles need to be created.
Yeah. So that I understand, but so do you have? So I read about Opal as well, and I think Opal is kind of coming in and filling this void. Is that fair to say, or do you have something recommended, some other application or some other architecture to follow to make sure that I can easily implement this thing?
Good question.
Because I'll tell you why. So I did not find anything. So then I was thinking, okay, so what does OPA give me? And then it's just some kind of a policy evaluation, because I'm still maintaining the policy, maintaining the data and everything. And it just evaluates that policy with the data locally, within that box, or Kubernetes instance. So I was thinking maybe it makes sense for me to also not use standard OPA, but write my own service, and you basically make available also the Golang it's written in Go, and like you have the SDK or also the Rego, like the low level library.
Mhm.
So I was trying to use the Rego library, and one thing that like I asked you in the channel as well, and like I was struggling with is like I found examples of like using input and policy, and but I did not find an example of using input, policy, and data together in a Rego for evaluation. So that is an example that I did not see. So basically, like what we have in the playground, right? Like in the playground, you have the Rego on the left-hand side and then the input and data. So I want something like this, which I can evaluate with the Rego.
I will say one, if you look at the Terraform example, we do show it there, right? The input is like the Terraform file, and then and then right. So that might be one place to look for it. We should have more examples than that, though. Let me just look at the docs real quick.
Yeah, so that is something that I needed help with, like to see if there is an example of using Go, like evaluate the Rego code with the input and the data. And I think like, are there a lot of people using this, or like it's just a less used thing?
Are you talking about
using Go and Rego package within the OPA library?
I would say the people who are doing it with Go, like typically they have like really high performance requirements, and so they're building something that just needs to be very performant. Here, I'm going to share a link. I think we have a couple, like this is like the OPA awesome list, and so there's a couple of things on here.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, I have seen this,
like there's a couple things in here that were built in Go that might help you design the thing that you're building as well.
Yeah. So I saw that like the Go example API authorization. Even in that, if you look inside like the example like main.go. So for example, so this one is using the SDK. So this is using the SDK, and so that's something that like I haven't tried yet, like honest I was hoping to get it like working just with the Rego, because then like I don't have to with the Rego, like if I could, then because at the core of it, like if I am managing the data and the policy, and I could just use the OPA for the evaluation of the policy, then that would have sufficed for me.
Okay, and so can you share your screen and show an example of what you're trying to do? Because if you're trying to do it on the command line, I in my mind this should work. So I don't know why it doesn't work for you.
Yeah, I can share my screen and. Okay, not this one. Yeah, so I was trying to find an example where, like I provide, so store gives you like, store is something like where what you have the data in the playground. The module, I think, is the policy. And then I was trying to see like, so yeah, like here, like how can I instantiate a new Rego which contains the policy code, the data, and some input. So this is obviously not working. I was trying to play around with this.
Well, you're not packaging, right? You're not packaging that with the Rego. So the Rego is the evaluator. So you have to package those three things and feed them to an instance of Rego. So yeah, I mean, I think the SDK might be your best bet. Like, I think you should definitely give that a shot, just because it's like documented already of like how to like instantiate a Rego and feed it data. So I think that would be the simplest move here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'll try the SDK. I haven't tried it. Like still have a couple of days, and I'll try to see if that works. Now coming back to the original question, where like I still need to write an application, write some service or something which manages like the bundles, the data and the bundles together, and puts it either in S3 or some other server, right?
Yes.
Is there an example like a small application or something which people are doing or using? Because I saw some examples. For example, like I think Netflix is using OPA a lot, and I was trying to say like they have more detailed information on like how they do it. But yeah, so yeah, some like guidelines on how to manage the the data and the bundles, because one of the concerns that I know that I'll get, like which I have already got, and like I'm trying to simplify, is like at the end of the day, like for making these like policy decisions, like a policy engine, we are ultimately ending up with like two other, like microservices kind of thing, like either OPA as the REST API or like as a sidecar daemon, and then this other service managing the data and the policy for all these policies.
If you wanted to make it super simple, what you could do is just like, right, have it just be a like GitHub action or something, right? Like inside a GitHub action, check in the code, you check in the policy or the data into like a GitHub action thing, and then the GitHub action, just have that run and create the bundle and put it somewhere, right? And then that way, it's just like super simple. Obviously, this isn't like, and so like that gets the point across where it's like, oh yeah, I checked my policy in, the GitHub action runs, it bundles the policy, it gets the data, it puts it somewhere, right? And so maybe it drops it into an S3 bucket, or maybe you're serving that from like an Nginx or something, right? But it just puts it somewhere that OPA can then go and like grab it, right? Like I think that would be the simplest way to do this.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, we got another minute. Do either of you have any more questions for me?
I just have one last question. So we talk about the HTTP call from the Rego policy. The latency, we need to pay attention to that. Is there any timeout setting from OPA instance itself? If let's say the API call takes 5 seconds, is timeout, or is it such a setting over there?
Yeah. Timeout. There should be. I think it's in the docs. Let's see. I can pull this up.
I think so too. Like I think there's a response header timeout seconds or something, like I see that already. Maybe from and I think like more like as a what do you say, thinking more like code level. So because I think like it's in Go, so some kind of context with timeout, like I think it would use that config and set the context within like whatever evaluation or whatever.
That's right. Definitely in my API producer, I consider that, but they probably need to integrate with the OPA server, right? OPA server may have some the tolerance or I need to be aware of, right? It can tolerate, let's say 10 seconds or 3 seconds, or can be configured.
Yeah, so those are two separate timeouts, right? We have timeouts for like policy evaluation, but the HTTP send built-in function also has like a network timeout, right? And so like one of those would be like timeout if this network request takes too long, but right, you also have a like more of a global timeout, like, oh, while I'm trying to evaluate this policy, it's not just the one request, but it's a request and policy evaluation, and everything added together shouldn't take longer than 5 seconds or something. I don't know what the sensitivity is there, but those are both configurable.
Both configurable. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Probably I will look up the document to find out. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you can just look at the policy reference here.
Okay. So if you have this exactly okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just under the HTTP built-in, and then there's just like a timeout a configuration, right? It's just called timeout, and you can set that.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. I have to leave for other meeting.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Nani. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.